You're listening to Seattle Real Estate Podcast.
Rent prices for single-family homes in Seattle are up 7.7%. So what we're seeing are some of the unintended consequences of the whole eviction moratorium. I've talked about this a ton right here in the Seattle Real Estate Podcast. Now you're starting to see the numbers and people are going to go, oh, yeah, I didn't see that one coming, but that's not good. It's what we're talking about here in the Seattle Real Estate Podcast. If you're new, my name is Sean Reynolds. I own a couple of real estate companies, and I analyze the news from what a lot of people would say is a reasonable perspective. All right, let's get into it. So this is a Seattle PI article, and I've talked pretty openly and pretty often about the fact that the eviction moratorium is going to have some real consequences, and it has to do with the constriction of the supply. And you constrict that supply of mom and pop landlords. Those are people with less than 10 properties, oftentimes less than 4 properties. When you basically tell them, here's what you can and can't do with your property. And for the next year or so, you're going to have to cover all the expenses for the tenants. You do that for long enough, like you're having happen right now, those landlords, they're going to sell their properties. And when they come back on the market, they're going to be purchased by owner-occupied buyers. And that rental pool is constricting. 7.7%. I think you're going to see double digits here shortly and consistently for a while. Rent is skyrocketing right now. Major media won't pick up on it for a while, but they also don't own a couple of real estate companies, right? That's why you're tuning in here to the Seattle Real Estate Podcast. You want that. You want that new insight on why rents are skyrocketing. Now, this is just one of those things that it's not that hard to call, and yet it's going to be all over the media because guess what? The people, and I get the whole thing. All right, so we don't want to kick people out of their homes onto the curb because the Rona's there on the curb, that whole thing. But just because people lose their jobs, landlords, they lose their jobs as well. You're just going to take one class of people and make them responsible for all the expenses of another class of people, the tenants. That to me that's been a no-go. That's been a no-go. And the federal government is trying to get money into the hands of the landlords who are owed billions and billions of dollars of outstanding rent. That is not going well. That's not going well at all. This is just going to be a catastrophe. When the eviction moratoriums finally get lifted, you're going to see increasing rents. People are going to squawk about that. All right. Yeah, that's happening. And then you're going to see people evicted. A lot of those folks might have gotten evicted anyway, pandemic or not, because you've always got that happening. And you've also got a situation where even though you've got the eviction moratoriums being lifted, that doesn't mean all these people are going to get evicted and kicked to the curb. They're not going to become houseless, which is the new term that we're supposed to use. They're not going to necessarily become houseless. People figure it out. But with the constricting supply of rental housing, if you've got an eviction on your record, you're going to have a tough time getting a rental down the road. So here's the scenario. Yeah, it's not looking good. And all of these things point to rents just basically going through the roof. And that's where you're at right now. So the report released Tuesday by CoreLogic, they aggregate a bunch of data and real estate's one of them. And we rely upon CoreLogic for a lot of our stats. They examined rent prices for single family homes in June of this year and compared them to rent prices for those homes in June of last year. Across the nation, year over year growth in rent prices for those homes was up 7.5%. That's huge. Nationally, you're getting pretty close to double digits there, rent increases. And guess what? Just because the eviction moratorium gets lifted, it doesn't mean that these rent increases are going to slow down. No. Just like here in the state of Washington, we were just given the ability by the courts to start indicating, hey, 60 days from now, your rent's going up. And I've talked about in the Inland Empire, which is basically Spokane, some horrifically high rent increases going on. People that can't afford it. And yet you've got these circumstances where landlords who have been forced to cover not only mortgage expenses, but taxes, insurance, repair, maintenance, maintenance and repair, same thing. Management, I mean, all of these things, landlords on the hook for, tenants, not so much. Landlords, they're going to need to recoup costs, right? Anytime you have something crazy hit in industry, what do you think happens to pricing? Does it go down? Do they just say, you know what, we've had a bad year. You know, to celebrate our bad year, we're going to reduce our prices on said commodity? No, that's not reasonable. You got it, goes up. In June of last year, the year-over-year growth was 1.4%. So a year ago, June, 1.4%. I'm surprised it was that much. But then you also did have so you had March, April, May, June. You had 4 months in there that you probably saw some decline that's averaged in. But rents for many, many, many years just crept up kind of slowly. 7.7% increase year over year. That's a big jump. And you're going to see more and more of this in the national media, because what the narrative will be is, oh my gosh, we kicked all these folks out of their homes and now they've got no place to go. And when they do go and try and find a spot, the rents are even more. Yep, we've been talking about that here for a while. That's reality. In a news release, the company's June average rent prices for single-family homes marked a 16-year high. The average renter living in a single-family home in the Seattle metro area now pays $2,833 per month, the report said. Housing experts say such high rent prices often eat into the savings of prospective home buyers and could prevent more people from purchasing as rent prices continue to increase. All right. That makes sense. That is a statement I would get behind. Because if you can't put money away, if, higher and higher percentage of your income is going to housing, yeah, you're either going to have to get another job, which a lot of people are like, oh, can't do that. What would happen to my weekends? What would happen to my evenings? Well, that's how a lot of generations have gotten ahead, taking a second job. How about that? No, we don't really believe in that anymore, working hard, do we? We believe in handouts. Give me something. I need something. I need that Obama phone. Where's that Obama phone? All right. So here we go. Single family rent change for select geographic areas. Phoenix, June 2021, single family year over year rent change, 16.5%. Oof. That's nuts. Las Vegas up 12.9. Tucson, Arizona, 12.5. Miami Beach, South Beach, 12.4%. Austin, let's go down to Austin in Texas, 11.9%. Dallas, 11.3. Atlanta, 10. Charlotte, 10. San Diego, 9. Houston, 8. Seattle, 7.7. New York is right behind Seattle at 6.7. You get the idea. This is across the United States. This isn't just we got a couple of cities that are just going ham. The rest, they're 1.3%. No, this is happening across the United States. Seattle's year-over-year growth of 7.7% was 11th highest in the 20 metro areas CoreLogic examined. The Phoenix metro area took the top spot. I talk about murder rate in Portland, record setting. These are not records. These are not top spots where you want to be. Rent prices for single-family homes there in Phoenix showed a 16.5% year-over-year growth. That is amazing. Those are huge, huge numbers. 16.5% for rent in single-family home. Oof. The second highest year-over-year growth, 12.9%, came in Las Vegas. The report also noted large increases in rent prices for detached rentals. People want their own single-family home and space, don't they? I kind of want a condo now because I don't want to mow the lawn anymore. Had that conversation with my son, who can buy pretty much anything he wants, apparently. That's what the mortgage guy said. You can afford, I don't know, a couple $1 million. What is this world coming to? But he wants a lawn. He wants to mow a lawn. He's at that point. And when he mentioned that, he's like, hey, Dad, I'm kind of looking forward to yard work. I'm like, okay. And I do remember that point when I was in my 20s. I wanted my oldest son now, Kieran, who is a baby then, I wanted him to grow up with a yard, all that stuff, the white picket fence. Okay. We never had the white picket fence, I don't think, because white picket fences have kind of gone by the wayside, right? But you want that single family home. You don't want to be on top of other people. Now I want to be on top of people because I want to be able to just go and travel. That's always the story, right? You never end up traveling as much as you think. But you don't want to be working on the yard. I should, instead of going out and just having some fun, I'm going to mow, blow, and edge my yard. Yeah, you could pay for a yard guy to come by it and do it. But when you're 27, you want to do that kind of stuff. And with the whole Rona thing, detached rentals, not have to go up the elevator, touch the Rona-laden wall, which the CDC has since said, not much Rona, has been spread by contact surface. That whole wash your hands all the time, just religiously wash your hands, that you just don't hear that much anymore, do you? You hear, wash your hands because it's a good idea because they're dirty. And this whole thing has just been, it's been difficult. I don't talk much about the Rona because when you do, it doesn't work out well. The YouTube algorithm, they don't like it. They don't want you talking against the narrative. So I just don't talk much about coronavirus anymore. In other words, single family homes that stand alone and don't share walls with another home, those are the ones going up the most. Nationwide, rent prices for detached rentals grew 10.5% year over year nationwide. The growth in June of last year was 4.5%. So double digits. CoreLogic's principal economist, Molly Bosel, said the growth in rent prices for detached rentals more than doubled the growth for attached rentals. It makes sense. I'm looking for attached. I want to just be able to go. I want to not have that exterior maintenance. I want to have to not worry about that stuff. I want to pay horrific homeowners dues. That's what I want to do. Will I do it? I don't know. I've been in a home for so long now. I have owned a condo. Kind of a pain in the ass dealing with the HOA, what you can and can't do. I'm kind of just, I think I'm going to do this today kind of guy. That doesn't work out well with the HOA. Know what I mean? So ultimately, for would-be home buyers who have been either priced out of the market or unable to find a home in today's supply-constrained market, detached rentals are overwhelmingly preferred and remain in high demand, she said in the release. I think you're going to go to see double-digit increases here for a good portion of the rest of 2021. I know we don't have that many more months left, but I think you're going to see that the eviction moratoriums being lifted. I think you're going to see that supply really constrict, and it may take into early 2022. But this is literally, this is what you're going to see. You're going to see some incredible climbs. And again, as far as real estate pricing goes, this may not sound like that much, but for rent's a different deal, right? Rent hasn't grown that rapidly. It just hasn't. And now you're starting to see some numbers where you're like, ooh, yeah, that's going to get tricky because people aren't going to be able to afford a rent. And what's going to happen is they're going to go from single family down to apartments, down to micro housing, whatever it is. So you've just got some dynamics in the marketplace that were already happening. And now, because of you've taken natural marketplace and you've really tweaked it with these restrictions, with the eviction moratoriums, that people at the beginning thought, well, this is a good idea because we won't spread the Rona. Protect those tenants. All right. We didn't think that all the way through to what would happen on the other end. It was more of a knee-jerk reaction. And now we're experiencing the impacts of said knee-jerk reaction. And it is not going to go well, unfortunately. And if you're a tenant out there, kind of hang on to your seats. If you're already experiencing difficulty paying your rent, you need to kind of come up with some game plans. And that might mean sharing housing with others, whatever it takes, but understand that these dynamics are happening. And it's going to go on for a while here. Rent will mellow out, but you've got to get the increases will mellow out. But these increases, they're going to happen here for a while. Housing prices, I think we're starting to see those level off a little bit, but housing prices jumped up so much more than rent prices did. And we're now at a position with the price nationally, and especially in markets like Seattle, where housing prices jumped so hard for so long. We're at a point now where I think buyers, not tenants, but buyers there's resistance to it. They're like, all right, yeah, we're not going to run out and do this multiple offer deal. And we're not going to offer, hundreds of $1,000s over the list price. We're going to sit back and we're going to kind of see how this goes, because we've been on this cycle for so long. I think we're at that kind of step back type point in the market. But again, if you've got a home that's really in demand and a really strong in demand neighborhood, you're still going to see some crazy stuff going on. It's just, as a whole, I think the rental market is going to explode. And I think the single family market will hold back a little bit, but pricing is still increasing. And so a slowdown in 2021, in quarter four of 2021, a slowdown means your appreciation just gets a little bit slower. It doesn't stop. It still keeps going up, just at a slower pace. That's the big slowdown in quarter four of 2021 that I think we're seeing already. In some markets, you've always got markets that just, wow, they're really leading the pack there. Stuff happening that's outside of the national circumstances. And you've always got that kind of stuff going on. But for markets like Seattle and Phoenix, even Portland, with all the craziness they've got going on down there, appreciation has just been crazy. And a lot of it has to do with employment. You got more jobs coming in than you do people pissed off about political situations leaving. We consistently talk about Chicago. Chicago had in-migration in the census of 2020. They had more people. And yet the rhetoric out there, and a lot of it from the right, from the Republicans, myself included, not in the Republican structure, but from being on the right, because I don't necessarily identify wholeheartedly as Republican. I identify as a little bit center right. But a lot of the rhetoric that you're seeing out of the right is Chicago's just a wasteland. It's war torn. But they've actually got businesses going in, and they've got more people going in migration instead of out migration, right? So those are dynamics that are happening. It's just that in certain neighborhoods in Chicago, you might get killed because every weekend you've got 40, 50, 85 shootings happen. People get shot. This past weekend, 13 people got murdered, something like that. I can't even keep the weekends straight. I try and kind of keep an idea on how that's going, but after a while, you're just like, that is so much human loss. I don't want to read anymore. It's like, well, didn't that happen last week? Wasn't I reading this? Oh, different story, same circumstances. Yep, crazy. But getting back to rent, you're going to see rent go up for a while. And as the Band-Aid gets pulled off of the eviction moratoriums. So right now, CDC eviction moratorium, it's in that court process. October 3rd is when it officially sunsets. I don't know. Here in the state of Washington, I think we're through September, end of September. We're getting close. We're getting close out there, landlords. And if you've hung on this long, you can hang on a little bit longer. You're probably not going to get fully paid back by federal money. Just know that. But there is federal money out there. If you are a landlord and your tenant hasn't been able to pay, there is money out there for you. It's just difficult in getting to you. As of the end of June, about 3% of the $46.5 billion have been distributed. That's not very good. Like 6% of the total funds available has been distributed, because the distribution process has just been a train wreck. So landlords, hang on out there. Tenants, there is money. If you owe your landlord rent, there is money, but you still got to be in the property. You got to respond to your landlord. You got to do the whole thing, play by the rules and by the guidelines. And there is money out there to bring you current if if that's the situation you're looking for. All right. That's it for me on this one. Thanks so much for being here. Thanks for being a part of the Seattle Real Estate Podcast. I will catch up with you soon because we're still releasing 2 podcasts a day, Monday through Friday, 1 on Saturday, 1 on Sunday. All right. Thanks again for being here. We'll talk soon. Till then, stay safe. Bye for now. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and hit the notification bell so you'll know when our next video is out.